So the first thing is let's take a look at Pharaoh. The Torah makes him very popular, very famous. I mean, who doesn't know a Pharaoh? Anywhere in the world, you ask people, who was Pharaoh? Everybody knows. He said, no, I won't let your people go. Everybody knows that. But if the Torah makes so much of an individual, there must be something significant. He was not just a petty dictator. He wouldn't get that much play. The conversations, the back and forth, Pharaoh said this, Pharaoh said that. If he was just an evil person, get rid of him and let's go on, So there must be something significant in everything he said because he's quoted. The Torah quotes him. So what was it about him? Aside from the fact that he was the superpower of his day, and what he did set the tone for all the countries in the vicinity, in the area, he was not a fool. And his arguments could be applied even today, and they need to be discredited, even though they do make some sense. So, briefly, what Pharaoh was saying to Moshe, you want to go out into the desert and do some religious stuff? That is so irresponsible. I can't let you do that. And he was really surprised that Moshe, of all people, who grew up in the palace and saw the advanced technology, the advanced medicine, the advanced mathematics, how they built a pyramid, which we still can't figure out, and how they were able to embalm a body to make it stay fresh for thousands of years. How did they do that? So Pharaoh's argument was, yes, you're working hard, but you're building the future. This is the future. This is civilization. This is the cutting edge. You want to go out into a desert and become religious? What will become of you? Useless nomads? And besides, you know what happens when people go into the desert looking for God? They end up drinking Kool-Aid. Happens again and again. And that's exactly what he said. He said, don't go. I see blood in your future. You could end up killing yourselves from frustration. After a few plagues, he said, well, okay, so if you must, take 10 guys and go. And Moshe said, no. Everybody, the young, the old. Pharaoh said, oh, you're crazier than I thought. Way too dangerous. No, I can't let you go. So he was making a lot of sense. And intelligent people could be convinced that he was right. Why wasn't he right? And in what way wasn't he right? See, he heard, when Moshe came to him, he heard Moshe say, we're going to go out into the desert to find God, to look for God. He said, that's insane. You can't do that. Totally irresponsible. You will become useless, you'll disappear in history, and you're choosing that over what we're accomplishing here in Egypt? The future? His misunderstanding was the Jews, Moshe was not suggesting that they're going to go into the desert to look for God, but that God is waiting for them, that this is God calling to them. They're not in search of a God. When he finally realized that by the 10th plague, he said, Why didn't you say so in the first place? If God is calling to you, then you have to go. And he chased them out. So here's the argument that presents itself constantly. Every country we come to, historically, we're challenged with that same question. This is the superpower. This is the future. This is something to look forward to. Religion? So what are you going to do? Send your kid to a yeshiva? Everybody's going to become a rabbi? You're all going to become useless people, like rabbis. Join us. We are the cutting edge. We're leading to the future. It's going to be a wonderful future, and you can be part of it. And we always buy it. And then it turns out to be a disaster. So the conclusion of that discussion or argument between Moshe and Pare says, we are the future. If you go into the desert, you'll become a nobody. But what's the end result? Where is Egypt? Ancient Egypt is an entry in Wikipedia. That's all it is. So what is the key? Godliness is the future. God's vision, God's plan for his creation, that's the future. Pharaoh made a terrible mistake. The future is not about what human beings can do. The future is the purpose for which human beings can do. And today we see it so clearly. We don't understand why we're here. So let me introduce you to the future. Because the future is not what it used to be. It used to be that the future was secular. Human beings were going to conquer everything. We've conquered space, we're going to conquer time, we're going to conquer everything. Because we're great. Why didn't that happen?
Based on a lie.
I mean, because we can't conquer everything.
No, that's the secular transcendence lie.
Which is?
Which is that humans can be as
Hmm.
gods.
Mm-hmm.
It's the old lie, really.
One argument would say it was arrogant of us to think that we could conquer all. We're only human beings and we can't conquer everything. But there's a deeper truth. Even if we could conquer everything, so what? Then what? So we can make it to Mars, we can live on Alpha Centauri. So what? There we won't have problems? There we're not going to have politics?
We still have ourselves.
Right. Right.
The concept reminds me of the Tower of Babel.
Yep. That's a good example. They had all they needed. They could conquer the heavens. And God said, no. What are you doing? He didn't say you can't. He said, I won't let you. Which means, technically they could. But God said, what are you doing? This is not what I created you for. Why are you climbing to the moon? You haven't fixed Earth yet. Don't give up so quickly. There's a lot of work to do here. So here's the really cutting edge future of the human condition. For all of history, we see ourselves as needy. We need. You have to be gesund, right? You gotta have your health. You gotta live. Well, then you gotta eat. You gotta have good food. You got to drink, you have to have healthy water, clean water. You need to breathe, you need clean air. We are so needy. And that's before we get to psychology. The psychological needs. You need support, you need validation, you need love, it just goes on and on. Every couple of years we find another need. You need a good self-image. Our grandparents didn't. Remember that? You never heard your grandmother say, I have a low self-image. I'm suffering from a low self-image. Never. That need was invented more recently. So as we go on, we keep piling on more and more needs. So look at the picture. Life itself, biology, creates needs. All sorts of needs. You need to be protected from the environment, you need to be protected from wild animals, you need to have food, you need to have shelter, you need to have clothing, it just goes on, just biology. Just not to die. Then you have social needs. The law of the land, belonging to a group, conforming to the group, not fitting in, rebelling, starting your own group, all sorts of needs. Then we have psychological needs. Needs no one ever thought of until Freud. Made us needy.
He was Jewish.
The one thing Jewish about him was guilt. Otherwise, he didn't participate in anything Jewish. Actually, there's an amazing statement that Freud made. One of his books was translated into Hebrew while he was alive. And they asked him to write the intro to the Hebrew edition, Totem and Taboo. In the introduction, he writes an amazing thing. He says, the reader might wonder about the identity of the author, because the author never did anything to deny his heritage, that he's Jewish. Even though I never participated in any of the customs of my kinfolk or something like that. So you might wonder, then what makes me Jewish? Or in what way am I Jewish? And he says the answer is, in a very essential way. But this is something that I cannot explain at the moment. But with time, I am sure that this mystery too will become accessible to human knowledge. You hear what he's saying? It's a lot of words and fancy language, but he's basically saying is, I am so Jewish, I don't even know how. But someday we'll figure it out. Father of psychoanalysis says, I don't understand myself. Maybe he needs therapy, I don't know. So now we have psychological needs. Now we go to religion. What does religion do for us? Makes you more needy. You are helpless without God. You depend on Him. If He's angry at you, you're finished. You better be on His good side. Sacrifice your firstborn. Or something, just to make sure He likes you. And if you think that when you die your problems are over, no. Your needs follow you there too. So for 5,000 years, 5,500 and some, that neediness drove us, motivated us to do great things. The caveman went out and hunted or gathered because he had to. He invented the wheel because he had to. All was driven by need. What is the expression? Need is the father.
Necessity is the mother of invention.
Necessity is the mother of all invention. Necessity drove everything. The farmer gets up in the middle of the night to milk the cows and to plow the fields and to hard, back-breaking work, but you have to. That is not the ultimate human condition. It can't be that we live and function in order to not die. It doesn't compute anymore. The farmer wakes his kid up and says, "Come on, we got to go to work." Why do we have to? Oh, you want to die? You want to starve? You want to suffer with no heat in the winter? Oh, okay, so you get up and you go. Today's generation, there is something developing, there is something happening that is awesome, awesomely good and awesomely scary. We don't want to do that anymore. We don't want to be driven by need or by threat or by necessity. We just don't want it anymore. It doesn't motivate. It irritates. You say to young people today, well, you got to get a job. It's irritating. You got to go see a doctor. Go on a diet. Stop eating that. Stop smoking that. Mm-mm. And the same is true with religion. You got to behave yourself. You got to worship. You got to whatever you have to do in the religion. Why? Well, you want to go to hell? You want to suffer? All of a sudden, that message or that approach is not acceptable anymore. Don't threaten me. And all of life has been one big threat. You have to. You need it. Today people are asking, who needs it? Who needs this? It is a beautiful future that we're headed into, where human beings stop being needy. Doesn't that sound wonderful? I don't need. But as we're transitioning, if I don't need, then I'm not going to do anything. Bad news. So are we progressing or are we regressing? It's always been that way. That's what kept us going for 5,000 years, since Adam and Eve. But what's happening today? Are we forever meant to be needy? Is it always a struggle against death or against atrophy? Like, if you don't use your brain, it's going to atrophy.
Only if you don't have something to struggle for.
So life will always be a struggle? I understand the virtues of struggle. It's real. But here's another view of reality, which a little messianic, a little utopian. The I awareness, the self-consciousness, I need, I want, I don't like, I hurt. That itself is the biggest burden that we live with. The capital I. It makes us crazy. So how do you like me now?
That actually makes complete sense.
The I is the biggest curse. And that's what happened when Adam and Eve ate from the tree of knowledge. Before that, they had no self-awareness. There was no I. There was a huge, beautiful world, all of God's creation, the Garden of Eden. It was all wonderful. So they didn't wear clothes. It didn't matter. There was no I. When they ate from the tree of knowledge, they suddenly developed an identity. Mine, yours, ours, private, public. It's a great improvement, but it's a terrible curse. So the tree of knowledge is the tree of good and evil, meaning this knowledge is the best of all things, and it's the worst of all things. So to have a sense of self, isn't that wonderful? Makes us human. We're not objects because we have a self. On the other hand, because I have a self, I hate you. Because your self is competing with myself. So even Cain and Abel, who had the whole world to themselves, no, the world was not big enough for the two of them. So this I, this me, has motivated all the progress that we've achieved until today. It was all motivated by the capital I.
The what?
The me monster. At the same time, every war, every ugliness, every crime was motivated by the capital I. The objective is, how can we have a healthy sense of self without the destructive side? So Hillel says in the famous Mishnah, if I am just me, what am I?
But if I am not for myself,
But if not from myself, then who will be? So there needs to be a self, but without the destructive side. So my identity should not consume me. It should empower me, not consume, not destroy me, not make me petty and needy and weepy and dependent. How do we do this? And I think this is already happening. If you look at the positive side, I didn't ask to be born. True?
true.
So you ask your kid to clean up the room, and he says, "Why do I have to? I didn't ask to be born."
Neither did I. Clean up your room.
Now you can panic and say, "Oh, this kid is suicidal." Or you can say, "Why didn't I think of that?" It's so true. So try this again. You need to clean up your room. Is that a true statement?
No.
There's no truth to it. I need you to clean up your room. It's not true. I don't know why we bought it. All these years, we bought it. Oh yeah, I guess. Now all of a sudden say, wait a minute. Like in all the advertising. So here's what I need you to do. Call this number and order the product. Oh, you need me to do that? The vocabulary has to change. Stop saying need. Stop saying must. Stop saying have to. People are allergic to it these days. As soon as they say you have to, you've been tuned out.
That's right.
You're the enemy, and you ain't nothing is going to happen. It's a radical change. Because, like I said before, Everything we ever accomplished is because we had to. I don't know why we had to go to the moon, but whatever. Had to get there before the Russians, right? Had to. Well, if you have to. Now all of a sudden, we have to what? It's not that it's not important. It's not true. See, here's what religion has been doing to us. You want, well, what you want is not important. What God wants is important. So submit. Humble yourself. Give up your needs. Give up your wants. That's a serious conflict. God says fast on Yom Kippur, but I need to eat. So who's going to win? Even if you decide to fast. Religion said, oh good, now you're going to have a better life after you die. Oh, so it all comes back to your need again. You need to eat now, but if you don't eat, you'll have it better in heaven. So it's your need. It's always your need. It always comes back to what you need. We are now enlightened. Truly, this is the age of enlightenment. Young people are saying, I don't need. Why don't I need? Because I didn't ask to be born. How can I need a job? I don't even need to be alive. So this guy who's suing his parents for giving birth to him without his consent. It took us 5,000 years to figure this out. They wake him up in the morning and they say, go get a job. He says, why? He said, because you need to eat. So, excuse me. I didn't ask to be born. You gave birth to me without asking me. You pay the bills. That makes sense. You invite me to an expensive restaurant and then you ask me to pay the bill? I didn't ask to be invited. So where did I sign a contract that said I'm going to work hard to pay the bills? There wasn't even an oral agreement. I didn't ask for this. I don't need this. But I have to have a job? Why? He sued his parents. They threw it out of court.
Wait, this is real?
Yes. They threw it out of court because the parents said, we didn't ask to be born either. So blame grandma. And grandma said, I didn't ask to be born. And then all of a sudden, everybody like, wait a minute. Nobody asks to be born. Where do all these needs come from? And even religious needs. God creates you without asking you, and now you're obligated to serve him? Now you have to be kosher, and you have to keep Shabbos, and whoa.
You have the opportunity. You want? God's doing some great stuff here. If you want to be part of it, this will help.
Okay. Our vocabulary has changed. But let's make it even stronger. We are told that there is only one God. Over and over and over. One God. One God. Okay. How many times do you have to repeat that? Everybody knows there's one God. Stop already. People, what did Judaism contribute to the world? Monotheism. That was 3,000 years ago. Have we done anything lately?
Well, we do keep worshiping other things.
Yes. The reason we keep repeating that there's only one God is not because we're denying idolatry. That's gone. It's finished. It's over. Having enough trouble with one God. Nobody's interested in more. The problem is, one God means one purpose. Not just one creator. If there is only one creator and he has a purpose, then there's only one purpose. So every time you say, I need, you're wrong. If there's only one creator, there's only one need. His. Since we are creations, where do we get needs from? How does a creation have a need? Is this making a little sense? So, don't you have to eat? Don't you have to sleep? No. No, it's a new world. We got to start thinking in a whole new way. I need to eat. What is this, my idea? I asked for this? I don't need to eat. Of course, if I don't eat, I'm going to die. So, don't threaten me. Threats don't work anymore. In fact, the parent says, you must be home by 8 o'clock. The kid says, I must? I must? I don't have to. I can stay out as long as I want. And the parent says, no, you have to be back by 8. The kid says, no, I don't. I don't have to be back by 8. What kind of rule is this? What does the parent say? If you're not back by 8, threats, right? You're resorting to a threat, which means you have no argument. Which means I'm right. I don't have to. Because if I really had to, you would explain it to me, not threaten me. So if you're resorting to threats, it means you don't have an argument. And the reason you don't have an argument is because I'm right. I don't have to. Don't have to anything. The old way of thinking is, if you don't want to suffer consequences, you better. Today people are saying, what consequences? If I didn't ask to be born, don't threaten me with death. Does that make sense? I don't ask to be born because I know I don't need to be. Why do I need to be born? I don't. Oh, but you're going to die. Yeah, okay, that's my point. It's not suicidal. It's not depressed. It's just a fact. I'm not miserable. I'm just on to you. You can't tell me I must. It sounds, now that you think about it, it sounds so arbitrary. You must. What must I? What? So now we have to change our vocabulary, not only to our children and to others, and you can't tell them they must, but the way we talk to ourselves. I need to sleep. Really? Why do I need to sleep? And don't threaten me. Tell me why I need to sleep. Well, all right, you don't. Okay, you don't need to sleep. Then why, if I don't sleep, do I fall apart? Because that's how you were designed. You didn't choose it. It's not your idea. It's not your need. But the designer or creator, or whoever is responsible for your existence, designed you this way. So does a human being need to eat? Or does the Creator need you to eat? Whose need is this? So to say I need is as it's like saying I created myself, but I didn't. Here's an interesting little example. A kid goes overseas to yeshiva. The day he arrives, he walks straight into the office to the dean and says, I have to call my mother. Where's the phone? And the dean says to him, you have to?
My mother needs me to call.
Why can't you tell the truth? You have to call your mother? No, you don't. It's a false statement. Your mother needs to hear from you. That's true. But then you talk to the mother. You need to hear from your son? Who did this to you? Who made you that way? That if your son is away, you worry? Is that your decision? In other words, can you stop worrying? No. Okay, then it's not your need. It's something that was done to you. So, do I need to eat? No. I would be much healthier if I didn't. But whoever designed me decided that I can only go for 3 hours before I need to eat. This is what we mean by one God. One God means one agenda, not many. I need this, you need that, and God needs something else. No, then there's not one God. This is where we're headed. Come to a psychiatrist these days, or tomorrow, in the near future, you come to a psychiatrist, I need help. No, you don't. Talk honest, factual. You don't need anything. What's your problem? You know what my problem is? I don't know what my designer expects. That's all. But I have no needs. So if the Creator has a need, tell me. What is it? Why does He need me to eat? Why does He need me to get a job? Why? But I need it? I don't need it. So Viktor Frankl said, a human being is driven and governed and survives all difficulties by finding meaning. What does that mean? What does meaning mean? What does purpose mean?
Understanding what you were designed for.
Designed by
And by whom?
someone other than me.
And what his need was.
Exactly. So purpose means, why did someone do this to me? Right? Because the purpose has to exist before you're created. Otherwise, you weren't created with a purpose. So you can't make up a purpose. So when you say, what is the meaning? What is the purpose of my life? What you're saying is, who did this to me? So, two things. First of all, psychologically, this is the healthiest human beings have ever been. I need nothing. Thank you very much. So no threats are going to help you. Don't threaten me. Tell me what I'm here for, and I'm listening. Tell me what I have to do and what I need to do. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to be needy. It's not human. Human beings are not another piece of creation like the animal or the vegetable or the mineral. The human being needs to be part creator, or called partners in creation. I need to create a world, not be the victim of the world. I need to make a life, not protect my life. So just to survive and not die, not interested. That's good for trees. Trees need not to die. A human being needs to be a partner in creation. So tell me what the plan is and let me contribute. But don't make me needy. I don't accept it anymore. Turns out that that's what Judaism was saying all along, and we weren't listening. You have to be religious. You have to be Shomer Shabbos. You have to be kosher. You have to get married. You have to... That's not what it says. Read the Torah again, but with the right tone of voice. What does it say? In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. This was not my idea. I don't need this. I didn't ask for this. But He did. Now, keep that in mind as you read the rest of the text. So, the most simple logical deduction. If God is the creator and we are the creation, who's needy?
The creator.
So we make two terrible mistakes. One is, we're needy. That's a mistake. We're creations. How can we be needy? The other is, God needs nothing. He's the creator. That makes no sense whatsoever. If He's the creator, obviously, He needs something. Why else would you create a universe? So we have it upside down. And that's why we're suffering. So people say, I'm suffering from this. Oh, interesting. I'm suffering from that. Really? I'm suffering from both. There's only one thing that we're suffering from. And it doesn't matter how it shows or what the symptoms are. It's one problem. I think I'm needy. That's the can of worms. If you open that can, everything goes wrong. I need. You start off on the wrong foot, you're going to end up in the wrong place. I don't need. It is what it is. I don't have any needs. But if Mashiach is coming, let him come. Not for my needs. See, that's we always thought, oh yeah, I need Mashiach to come. He'll protect me. He'll heal me. Stop with the needs. So here's the future. You can either feel needy or you can feel needed. Not a difficult choice to make. You want to be needy or you want to be needed?
Needed. Yeah.
Needy is already depressed.
Yeah.
Even if you have everything you need, you're still depressed. Right?
Tons of
Like
rich
some-
people show us that
Exactly.
every day.
The most affluent, the most successful, the most spoiled kids are depressed. Why? Why does a human being need a kidney? Oh, well,
Your body will shut down and die.
You're gonna
if you don't
die.
have any.
all right, so stop with the threats, okay? A threat does not make it my need.
God created my body to function with 2 kidneys.
Yes. I don't know why.
Or even
I
one.
could use it.
Or even one, yeah.
I could use another liver. You don't get 2 livers, only 2 kidneys. This is my decision, my choice, my design. I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. If it were up to me, people should not need kidneys. Okay, so I think this is helpful. The people who successfully overcome and survive and even thrive after difficult, usually it's because someone needs them. Isn't that true? I don't want to die. Why? Nobody asked me anything. But here's the point. Frankel's concept. If you have a meaning, if you have purpose, you will overcome. If not, what do you need? So imagine a person in a concentration camp, sickly, frozen, hungry, threatened, depressed. He says, nope, gotta get up, gotta get up. Gotta get up? No. Dying is a much better idea. So what about those who did get up? Why? Because they didn't want to die? I don't think so. The will to live means the feeling of being needed. Just the will to live because I don't want to die doesn't work. Because some point you say, you know what? Hey, let me die. Who needs this? So why do you need another kidney or replace a kidney? Because you're necessary. Because you're necessary. Not because it's necessary. And that's actually the truth of history. Those who just wanted to survive didn't. But those who wanted to serve survived. Those who had a purpose survived. Those who just wanted to survive didn't.
Is that why so many Holocaust survivors became like novelists and attorneys and governors and all that?
Or mothers and fathers. That's heroic. They survived because they wanted to have children so that Hitler fails. And by the way, we should stop calling them survivors.
That's what.
That's a funny word, no?
I know.
Yeah.
What's a good one?
But what else could you?
Holocaust survivors?
What else could you call this?
Holocaust heroes?
I know what?
Heroes.
Heroes.
It suggests the ones that didn't make it aren't. So
That's right.
that's
We
a
live
little
for
rough.
those. We live for those who didn't make it.
Those
That's
they
the
are
purpose.
martyrs, not heroes.
The ones
But-
that died
Are martyrs.
are martyrs.
But the survivor? What does that mean? What does that mean? They're still breathing? They're doing a lot more than breathing.
I have a hard time accepting that if you didn't feel a meaning, that's why you didn't survive. I don't believe that. I believe that there were probably a lot of people that had the will to survive and had meaning and purpose, but they
didn't.
were
Eliminated.
gassed.
Yeah.
They were whatever,
Yeah, yeah.
So
I-
it's
I'm
I
not-
think that's a generalization to just.
We're not saying that if you have a purpose, nobody can kill you. Of course, you get hit by a truck.
doesn't
But the will to survive
isn't accomplished unless you
comes
have-
from a purpose. Not just because I don't want to die.
So, so as a child, a will to survive is to see your family again, to be with your family, because that's all you know. Because you need them and they need you.
Yes. So
And then as we go on,
we wake up in the morning and we say, Modeh Ani. Thank you for returning my soul to me. And the emphasis is on my soul, not a soul. So we're not thanking God for another day of life. So then you would say, a soul. We're thanking God for giving us back our mission, my soul, my purpose. I can continue on my purpose. For that we are grateful. But just to wake up, not good enough.
sometimes you don't feel that purpose, and sometimes you do.
Because truthfully, life does not justify itself. So people talk about the survival instinct. The survival instinct is frail. You know, enough pain, and all of a sudden you don't want to survive. You want the opposite. So what is the true survival instinct? The true survival instinct is, I'm necessary. I am needed. So no matter how much pain I feel, I'm supposed to be here. I got to stay. I am needed.
Rabbi.
Yeah, but I hate my life. Okay, but somebody needs you. So the first step is, if God decides you've done your job, then he takes you back to heaven.
Does he still have a need for us?
He's not going to leave you here without a purpose, because that's painful. So when your purpose is accomplished, you go back to heaven. But one of the principles, the 13 principles of faith, is that every soul will eventually come back to its body. So heaven is temporary. Earth is forever. You like that idea?
So if you're living for your children and they're doing great, they don't need you anymore, then it's okay to die.
Well,
Don't be so
they
cruel.
say they don't need.
you.
Yeah.
Say they don't need, they need you. They don't want you to go. That's
No, they
right.
don't.
But
Because they have a need.
but the need has to begin with the Creator before you have children. You're already necessary because you were created. So on the one hand, going back to our original topic, on the one hand, me? What's me? The me doesn't need anything. And yet, I am necessary. So the ego or the me is not consuming me, it's not destroying me, it's enabling me to respond to a need. God needs me, not just someone. And what does he need from me? That's a healthy me. But what do I need from him? I'm starting to suffer. Because that can of worms you can never satisfy. So, if I get what I need, I feel a little guilty. Survival guilt. What is it called?
Survivor's guilt is, in fact.
Survivor's guilt.
Survivor's guilt.
Yeah, why do I have and others don't?
Right.
If I don't have what I need, I'm definitely depressed. So you can't win. Once you start with needs, it's unlivable.
What about all the people on this earth that don't have a purpose and that are living and that are miserable and sick and this takes space on this earth in a very negative way?
Every person is needed. question is, where are we focused? You can say, look, we are needy. Come on. We are needy.
Yeah.
We're dependent on so many things,
Yeah.
including God. So what do you mean we're not needy? Of course we're needy. But that's also not our own. Yes, you can't live without food. But why do you claim it to be yours, that need? Once you make it personal, you're harming yourself. Like, if every song has to be about you, you're not a healthy person
Yeah, well, there's a lot of unhealthy persons.
because of their focus. They just shift their focus.
Yeah.
They are needed. But they don't think about that. They don't celebrate that. They're too focused on what they need. So that's where our freedom of choice comes in. You want to be needy, or do you want to be needed? Imagine that the whole world wakes up and says, you know, I'd rather be needed. What a fantastic world this would be.
That's right.
So we're not passengers in creation, we're crew.
We may even be the masters because he put us in charge.
But isn't there a moral dimension to this? For example, the person whose health is failing, or the person who's in a concentration camp who, doesn't survive. I mean, what you're saying kind of implies that there's a failing on that person's part to want something or need an organ or to survive. And I'm curious to know how you address the moral dimension here.
You mean the moral question of giving up? Of not trying, of not...
It seems there's a judgment or something implied when there is a medical need or something that is kind of, are we blaming the victim, rather than having compassion?
I think it's the opposite. If I don't have needs, then whichever way it goes cannot be attributed to me. I exist because he needs me. I don't exist because he doesn't.
So that's kind of an abrogation of...
Yes.
To me, that sounds like an abrogation of everything, responsibility.
Okay, so here's the difference. We have for all of history considered need obligation. You got to do what you need. You're obligated, and we didn't distinguish between need and obligation. Obligation means I don't need it. Doesn't that?
No, not yet.
Obligation means I'm obligated to someone, not to myself. So if I stop responding to my neediness, I am free to respond to my obligations. So being needy is an obligation. Someone needs you, you got to take care. But that's not your need. So it's like a hungry man asks for a sandwich, and you say, come on, I don't need this. Exactly right. That's why it's a moral question and not survival. You don't need it, but he does. So what does that give you? Obligation, not need. So both things are true. I don't need poor people knocking on my door. I don't need this. But if a poor person knocks on your door, how can you not feed him? Morality, it turns out, all moral decisions, all moral behavior is something you don't need. Every mitzvah in the Torah you don't need. You don't need. That's why it's a mitzvah. You need to give charity? You need to heal the sick? You need to protect the endangered? No, you don't. It's a mitzvah. Mitzvah means that's what is needed from you. That's what you are needed for. It's not what you need. And that's why people who become religious because they want to go to heaven, or they want to be a saint, or they want to be a tzaddik. Wrong. This is not for your benefit. It's for your meaningfulness, which is a huge benefit. But so let me give a quick example. In a marriage, if you're married because you're looking to gain something, you're in for trouble. If you marry because you feel needed, you're in heaven. That's why a wife should never say to her husband, "Never mind, I did it myself." That means I don't need you. Imagine a man says to a woman, "I love you for your money. I want to marry you for your money." Anything wrong with that? I mean, assuming that she has money. Otherwise, the whole thing's a disaster. But what is wrong with saying, "I want to marry you for your money"?
What if the money runs out?
Well, there's no need of the person. And that's what the
Just
marriage
remember,
is about.
yeah.
He's marrying
To
your money.
become one person. If you don't need the other person, you're still half.
Right. When you say, "I want to marry you for your money," you're saying, "I don't want to marry you." So if I could get your money without marrying you, that would be perfect. But in an imperfect world, I think I'm going to have to marry you. Why is that not the same as saying to God, "I will worship you, I will serve you, I will do all the mitzvot to get to heaven"? Actually, can I just get to heaven? What do you have to make everything so complicated? Just give me heaven. It's so insulting and so impersonal. So really, self-serving religion is idolatry. It's not about him, it's about you. So wanting to get to heaven, wanting rewards of all sorts of any, that's not godly. That's just the me monster taking over everything.
So if somebody wants to open the door for you, but you're really fiercely independent, it's a mitzvah if you let them open the door for you.
Yes. Because you don't need them to.
I wanted to,
That make sense?
Thank you.
So let's get a definition. What is a martyr? In the Jewish sense. Not the guy who kills himself, for the drama. Not Romeo and Juliet. What is a real martyr?
Someone who dies for a higher cause?
For the name of the Lord.
someone who hopes,
Someone who dies for a higher cause.
higher cause.
Possibly to save somebody else.
Or to save somebody else.
Do they have to die to be a martyr? I think you could be a martyr and still be alive.
A living martyr.
Someone from whom God's purpose was higher and more important even than their own purpose.
But that was their purpose.
People
His purpose for them. That's where we get a little confused. So I think you've already said it. They did not die in vain. When death is purposeful, it can be more purposeful than life.
Amen. I believe that.
So a martyr is someone who not only lived a purposeful life, but even died a purposeful death.
And doesn't that then magnify what they did in their life? I mean,
So Moshe, probably the greatest hero of all, how did he die? Where did he die? Where is he buried?
We don't know.
Nobody knows. Nobody saw, nobody. His death was like an anticlimax. A magnificent life, and then a mysterious death.
But that was still part of the purpose.
That's why in Kabbalah it says that Moshe was reincarnated as Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva. What is special about Rabbi Akiva?
horrible, worst.
He died a martyr's death. That's what Moshe was missing. Rabbi Akiva lived to be 120, just like Moshe. And he was the teacher of all the rabbis. He was the rabbi's rabbi, just like Moshe. But his death, everybody knows about. And it could be that that's what the Holocaust was. People who had lived magnificent lives now died a martyr's death. So I think it's safe to assume everyone who died in the Holocaust had already had a magnificent life. Maybe a past life. So what happened in the 20th century is that 6 million, or probably 10 million Jews became martyrs because they were already tzaddikim from their past lives. So even the biggest tzaddik might not have the privilege of dying a martyr's death. Now, why that's a good idea, I don't know. As you say, we'll never really understand.
No, that's right.
We won't understand death until it stops.
And then we don't.
Then we'll figure it out. But as long as we're dying, we'll never figure it out.
Yeah. Well, we have to appreciate and be grateful of what we have today, right now. That we're all here together, and that we are sharing some wonderful information from you, and that's a blessing.
Amen.
I'm glad we came.
We're glad you're here.
Rabbi Menace, you mentioned the future, and the Jewish people believe in a Mashiach. In every generation there's the potential of Mashiach. So how in the future, or now, will the consciousness of humanity develop in a way that will dispel these false beliefs and errors that we have about death and materialism and all this other stuff that really has no meaning in itself? Because the real meaning is that we're one with God already, and we need to have an open, more consciousness of His presence now. So how is the Mashiach and this a deeper, a higher consciousness that we are one with God in one?
Well, the good news is that it's already happening. And this attitude, I didn't ask to be born, is messianic.
But now we
Because
need teachers.
He
We
had,
need good teachers.
yes, and Mashiach is going to be the ultimate teacher. But here's the thing. When Mashiach comes, what will motivate us? There will be no threats. Once Mashiach is here, you're not going to be able to say, you want to die? That's not going to be a threat anymore. You want to go to hell? No, hell will be finished. So there won't be any threats. So we have to start developing this attitude where you do what you do without threats. Because by tomorrow, if Mashiach comes, the threats are over. Now what? So we're warming up to that time when there will be no threats. But life will be very exciting. How will that be? Stand by for news.
Well, we know that we'll live under a different motivation, which is the purpose of the kingdom, right?
Right, the excitement of being needed.
And knowing exactly how.
Huh?
And knowing exactly how.
Yeah, who needs us and for what? So here are two parts, the transition. The first stage is, wait a minute, I don't need. And that's going to be a little confusing and disruptive because, we've depended on that for so long.
We've needed it for so long.
We've needed to be needy. All of a sudden we don't. So there'll be some scary moments in that. Every transition is scary. The other half of that is, if I am not needy, I am totally available to you. Like in a good marriage, I'm not compromising, I'm not sacrificing, I'm not giving up anything. I don't need anything. So whatever I can do for you is just pure pleasure. So today when people say, marriage means compromising, no compromise. Marriage is a sacrifice, then I'm not doing it. Human sacrifices are over. No more sacrificing. So that's what a real tzaddik is. A real tzaddik is someone who has no needs and is therefore completely available to God's needs. And doesn't feel like he's sacrificing or compromising or submitting or humbling himself. None of that.
There's something that sounds almost Buddhist about what you're saying.
Sounds what?
Almost Buddhist.
Buddhist?
Buddhist.
Where do you think they got it from?
All the Jew booze.
Actually, that's very cool. They have half the story. We don't need anything. So who does? Nobody. That second half is missing. They realize human beings are not needy, but they don't have a God who does need. That's what Avraham developed before God spoke to him. Avraham developed the essence of Buddhist Hindu thinking before God spoke to him. So he didn't know that God was needy. All he knew was human beings are not.
Can I ask something? If God is supposed to be perfection, what kind of perfection has a need?
There is nothing so perfect, right, as a broken heart. Or like Leonard Cohen says, the cracks are what let the light in. Needy for a human being is so inappropriate. So if a human being is needy, it's a weakness. Because it's not true. It's like self-crippling. But for God to be needy is awesome. That doesn't make him less perfect. Makes him more than just perfect. Purposeful. Because perfection also needs justification. Okay, so you're perfect, so what?
What was it that you said in one of your talks that he had a perfect existence, but an existence is just an existence, it's not a life.
Right. So perfect also needs a purpose, a relationship, a something. Just perfect? Where does that go? What does he need?
The creation.
What does that mean?
Community. To be able to share himself.
He doesn't need something, he needs someone. If he needed something, he would be imperfect. But to need someone, that's not an imperfection, that's a virtue. So imagine a human being who says, I am perfect, so I don't need you. That's not even a decent human being. That's a perfect little monster. I'm perfect, I don't need anybody. Yeah, it's true. You are perfect. But you don't need anybody? That's nasty. So when do you really need somebody? When you don't need anything. So when you're perfect, that's when you really need somebody. And God is ultimate perfection. He has the ultimate need. So the formula, the statement in the Torah, God said it is not good to be alone. He's talking about himself.
So when he created everything that's not the human beings, he created it for the sake of his need for the human beings?
Yes. That is a perfect quote from the Talmud. Everything was created to serve me, and I was created to serve my Creator. It explains why God had to say it's not good. Don't say it, just go ahead and create. Why make a statement? By making the statement, he created us in his image, that we also are not good alone. Which brings us back to today's generation and our predicament. We are suffering more than anything else. We are suffering from loneliness. Right? It's a major...
Yep.
Even people who are happily married feel like they're really just alone in the world. That's pretty serious. And it's a health hazard.
Oh, yeah.
Because when you feel alone in the world, your immune system crashes and you become vulnerable to every disease.
Is that because of social media? Everybody thinks that they're having intimacy, but it's really a machine.
Everybody likes me online. How many people like you? Thousands. Yeah, but I'm all alone in the world. That's part of the problem. But that is a mystery. The fact that we hate being alone is a divine attribute. It's not human. Human beings should be perfectly content to be alone. I mean, if they're capable. If they're self-sufficient, why not be alone? In fact, what do you hear most from people? Leave me alone.
I have my dog and cat.
Well, with back animals.
Leave me alone. So by saying it is not good to be alone, God implanted a divine instinct in us. That even though we're completely self-sufficient, we can't stand being alone. For no reason. There's no explanation.